Therefore I do not grieve, and I am not dismayed. The crow and the tortoise exclaimed, "Oh, how is that?" And Goldy began the tale of the man who received what was his. In a certain city there lived a merchant named Sagardatta, whose son once picked up a book which was on sale for 100 rupees. In it was written just one line of a verse: "A man gets what he is destined to have." Reading that, Sagardatta asked his son, "My dear boy, how much did you buy this book for?" And his son replied, "For 100 rupees, sir." What expostulated the father? "You inimitable blockhead! You went and paid 100 rupees for a book in which just one line of a verse is written? With this kind of intelligence, how will you ever acquire the wealth? Leave my house this minute, never to enter it again." This severely reprimanding his son, Sagardatta threw him out of the house. Barely humiliated by his father's words, the son left his home for some very remote land and landed up in a certain city, where he took up residence. After some days, a native of that city approached him and inquired, "Sir, where have you come from, and what may your name be, sir?" And the young man answered, "The man who receives his deserts, sir." When some other person asked him the same question, he gave the same reply: "The man who receives his deserts." On every occasion that he was asked his name, he gave the same reply, so that soon he became known by his name, Mr. Just Deserts. Now, one day, Princess Moonlight stood with her friend, looking out at a city. She was radiant in the first blush of youth and beauty. A certain prince, uncommonly handsome and charming, happened by one of those tricks of fate to be just at the spot at that very moment. The very instant the princess set eyes on him, he was struck by love's flower arrows. Turning to her friend, she cried, "Oh, my dear friend, pray try your best to arrange for a meeting today with this person." The friend hurried at once to the prince and said, "I come to you from Princess Moonlight, and she sends you this message. From the moment I set eyes on you, I have been sick unto death for love of you. If you do not come quickly to me, I shall surely die." Hearing these words, the prince remarked, "If there is this dire need for my presence, then tell me how I can enter the palace." "Listen," said the friend. "At night you will see a stout ladder of woven leather hanging from an upper balcony of the palace for you to climb." "Well," replied the prince, "if this is your ladyship's plan, I shall follow it accordingly." Having concluded the arrangement, the friend returned to the princess. When night fell, the prince remained lost in thought. He said to himself, "A preceptor's daughter, or a friend's wife, the wife of one's master or of one's man. A man who approaches any of these is said to be the guilty of Brahma's recited, and further action that brings dishonor or leads to one's downfall or brings about the loss of one's wealth should never be undertaken." Having thought over the matter carefully, the prince decided not to meet the princess. In the meantime, Mr. Just Deserts, who was roaming around in the city at night, noticed a ladder of woven leather hanging down the side of a fine stucco mansion, and out of a mixture of curiosity and adventurousness, he took hold of it and climbed up. On seeing him, the princess, quite confident he was the right man, received him with all courtesies, offered him a luxurious bath, fine food and drink, finest garments and the like, after which she led him to her bed. With her limbs thrilling with rapture, from his touch, she whispered, "Having fallen in love with you at first sight, I have given myself to you. Never shall I ever think of another man as my husband. Now what do you know that you know this? Why don't you converse with me?" But all the young man said in reply was, "A man gets what he is destined to have." Hearing this, the princess, whose heart almost stopped beating, quickly sent him packing down the ladder. The young man made his way to a ruined temple and went to sleep. After a while, a policeman who had an assignation at the temple with a woman of easy virtue came and found a man fast asleep. Wishing to keep his secret safe, the policeman asked him, "Who are you, sir?" And the man replied, "The man who gets what he is destined to have." When he heard this, the policeman said, "Look, this is a deserted temple. Why don't you go and sleep in my bed?" Reaching that place as directed, the young man by mistake entered the wrong room, where the policeman's daughter, named Miss Modesty, a big girl blessed with youth and beauty, lay waiting, having made a date with certain man she was infatuated with. When she saw Mr. Judge Stezels walk in, she thought to herself, "Ah, here he is, my own beloved." Failing to recognize the man in pitch darkness, she rose and married herself to him by Gandharva rites. Then, lying in bed with him, her eyes and face radiant like blossoming lotuses, she whispered, "How is it that even now you refrain from speaking freely with me?" And the man replied, "A man gets what he is destined to have." Thoroughly nonplussed, she was plunged into thought. Alas, this is the kind of unripe fruit that one picks when one acts without due deliberation. She pondered ruefully over when she had done. Then reprimanded him, made more from sorrow than anger, she sent him out of the house. As Mr. Just Deserts went down the main street, a marriage procession was entering the city to the sound of splendid music and headed by a bridegroom named Fine Glory, a man from another city. Mr. Judge Deserts decided to join this procession. Since the auspicious moment was fast approaching, the bride, daughter of a rich merchant who was president of the guild, was waiting at the gateway of her father's mansion on the royal highway. Dressed in a virtually sanctified wedding clothes, with the sacred marriage thread already wound round her wrist, she stood on a beautifully decorated dais. At that moment, an elephant in draught was rampaging maddened, and having killed his rider, and it was creating no end of confusion as people ran here and there. Terrified and worse, the animal was headed in the direction of the marriage procession. One glimpse of the fierce animal and the whole entourage of the bridegroom and the bridegroom too. Whole entourage of the bridegroom and the bridegroom too fled towards the far horizon. In this crisis, Mr. Judge Stezels noticed the bride. Left all alone, her eyes were trembling in wild terror. "Do not be afraid. I shall protect you," he said in a resolute and reassuring tone. Then, putting his right arm round the bride, he addressed the elephant with admirable boldness, severely taking it to task for its misdemeanor. And strangely enough, as fate would have it, the animal actually retreated and left the place. In the meantime, seeing the coast clear, the bridegroom, Fine Glory, with his entourage of relatives and friends, arrived well past the auspicious time set for the wedding. And what does he see but his bride to be held by another man? He looked around and, noticing the bride's father, remarked sharply, "Hey, father-in-law, sir, what is it? that you have done. It is hardly right that you should promise me your daughter in marriage and then give her to this man." I was also frightened by the elephant, Sir Fine Goldy, and fled in fear. I have just this minute returned with the rest of you, and I haven't a clue as to what happened in the interval," answered the bride's father, and then began to question his daughter. "My darling, it is not a nice thing that you have done. So now tell me what happened." And the girl replied, "Dear father, this man came to my rescue when my life was in danger. So no other man will ever hold my hand, not as long as I live." Now we see how the events fold on later.